Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Richard Dawkins Award presentation. I'm deeply honored to host this worldwide event featuring two such towering figures as Richard Dawkins and Javed Akhtar. We have hundreds of attendees registered from across the globe, and we'll be giving people a little time to join us while I introduce the event. The attendees joining us today are not just from places you might expect, like the United States, England, India, and Canada, although that is where our largest audience is located. But this event is also drawing people from Indonesia, Afghanistan, and even Saudi Arabia. And I think that's very brave, and I'm sending you a special welcome. And if you people in Australia are really tuning in, well, it's 2 a.m. in Sydney right now, so we'll try to keep you awake. My name is Robin Blumner, and I'm the CEO of the Center for Inquiry and Executive Director of the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science. Why both titles? Well, in 2017, the Richard Dawkins Foundation merged with the Center for Inquiry, and the combined organizations work on three interlocking fronts to support reason and science. First, we stand up for the separation of religion and government. We fight against religious dogma finding its way into law, because when it does, that inevitably results in the repression of secular values and intolerance toward the non-religious. Second, we promote the rights of atheists and the non-religious around the world. And to that end, we have a program called Secular Rescue that helps atheist activists to escape persecution in places where it's dangerous or even deadly to speak out on behalf of non-belief. And third, we fight against pseudoscience. That means we challenge anti-science ideas of all kinds. We stand up for the notion of universal vaccinations and against the wrong-headedness that vaccines are dangerous. And this is especially relevant during this year of the COVID pandemic. We fight against the pseudoscientific nonsense of psychic power, the backwardness of astrology, and we challenge any miracle cure that has more in common with wishful thinking than with real science-based medicine. These are some of the subjects that I have no doubt our speakers will explore today. And if these issues inspire you, and you're watching, so they probably do, please consider becoming a member of the Center for Inquiry and the Richard Dawkins Foundation if you are not already one of us. You can do so easily by going to the website centerforinquiry.org. So about today's event, this is how it will unfold over the next 90 minutes. First, the renowned evolutionary biologist and best-selling author Richard Dawkins will formally present the award to our wonderful honoree, Javed Akhtar. They will have a discussion for about an hour, and after that, there'll be about 20 minutes for questions and answers. There is a Q&A function at the top of your screen where you can submit questions. Today's tech support is being handled by Mark Kreidler, who is CFI's webmaster. Thank you, Mark. And the event is being recorded and will be posted soon online at the Center for Inquiry's website. As quick background, the Richard Dawkins Award was established in 2003 to honor eminent figures from the worlds of science, scholarship, education, and entertainment who publicly proclaim the values of secularism and rationalism and who uphold scientific truth wherever it may lead. Past awardees have included James the Amazing Randi, who sadly died just a few days ago at 92. But he was the award's first recipient, and he was also a founder of one of the forerunner organizations of the Center for Inquiry. And since then, dignitaries and celebrities such as Penn and Teller, Julia Sweeney, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, the late Christopher Hitchens, and Stephen Fry have received the award. and last year comedian Ricky Gervais was its recipient. And now to present the Richard Dawkins Award for 2020 to the incredible Javed Akhtar. It gives me great pleasure to give you the award's namesake, Richard Dawkins.
Thank you very much, Robin. This is the first time the Richard Dawkins Award has been presented remotely, obviously because of COVID-19. I'm in Britain, Javed is in India. One might say it's being presented virtually. And we narrowly escaped it being virtual in another sense. Although FedEx promised it would arrive by October the 14th, it was unaccountably held up in customs. It's not the first time I've had a run-in with customs officials. A friend of mine told me this lovely story about the British customs. He was sent as a gift from Switzerland a large bar of expensive Swiss chocolate. It arrived with a notice attached to the package saying, "Opened for inspection by Her Majesty's Customs." When my friend unwrapped the chocolate, he discovered that a large bite had been taken out of the chocolate. Fortunately, the Richard Dawkins Award is not edible, and that may be why the customs finally released it at the 11th hour. Javed Akhtar is a renowned poet in the Urdu language and a legendary screenplay writer of the Indian film industry, for which he's received countless awards. But we honor him today because he is a rationalist, an atheist, and a humanist. He's a strong advocate of women's rights who bravely spoke up against the fatwa prohibiting women from sharing an office with men. I love his reply to the inevitable question, why are you an atheist? Because I think. It's simple yet devastating. Simple and devastating too is his aphorism on faith and stupidity. Any stupidity accepted on a mass scale is faith. If faith loses its followers, it becomes stupidity again. I've learned a lot about Javed Akhtar from social media since we announced the award. I was humbled to learn that he was inspired by my book, The Selfish Gene. I've listened to recorded discussions that he's had with various people. I always come away with his no-nonsense phrases ringing in my ears. Here are just two more examples. If you are a rationalist, you have no choice but to be an atheist. Otherwise, you're not a rationalist. You can be good in spite of your religion, not because of it. India has a worldwide reputation for secularism, dating back to the founding fathers of the modern Indian nation. Through his fierce debates with Indian gurus, Javed Akhtar has upheld this noble tradition. Nehru and Gandhi would be proud of him, though not, I suspect, proud of India's present leadership, which has betrayed the secular tradition. Following, I must add, in the lamentable footsteps of Pakistan and Bangladesh on the other side of the religious divide. Nevertheless, it is commendable that India is still a country where an out atheist can speak his mind as forcefully and as eloquently as Javed does. An atheist in those neighboring countries of the subcontinent would have a much harder time, to put it mildly. Javed is a poet, a writer, not a scientist, but his fight against irrationality in India has meant he's had to arm himself with a deep understanding of Darwin's theory of evolution. I've long been amused by the pathetic and undignified attempts by Islamic scholars to claim priority for modern scientific discoveries in their scriptures. For example, they make this ridiculous claim about some facts of embryology. What I hadn't realized until Javed enlightened me is that Hindus also make parallel claims about evolution, for instance. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, has even used the elephant god Lord Ganesha to claim that ancient Indian surgeons must have developed a technique to graft an elephant head on a human body. I like the following saying from Javed. I find it highly amusing that the moment they, the gurus, find something compatible, they start respecting science and they say, look, now even science has accepted it. But the moment it opposes them, then it is not credible at all. Too many in India are apparently willing to take credit for the theory of evolution, while at the same time they cling to ridiculous notions of reincarnation and thereby implicitly reject real science. Javed has the courage to stand against such nonsense. Equally admirable is his empathy for women. There is a custom, I'm told, in parts of India to worship mothers like a goddess, but Javed regards such quasi-religious stuff as a fraud. He believes that the worst treatment of women is seen in countries that worship a mother as a goddess. You can see the rage in his eyes when he talks about the atrocities committed against women. He's also against the very idea of nationalism. This is what he says about nationalism. One must never be haughty about the country one is born in, because your country is your accidental appendage. But Javed Akhtar is an eternal optimist. He's a great entertainer, full of wit and humor. I had the good fortune to have dinner with him in 2012 when we were both featured at the Jaipur Literary Festival. My impression at the time has been confirmed. Javed Akhtar is humble despite his towering accomplishments. I hope that today will lead to a continuing personal friendship with this great Indian rationalist. I am deeply honored that Javed Akhtar has agreed to accept the 2020 Richard Dawkins Award. And since I'm in Oxford and he is in India, he will have to show it to us. I hope he can show it to us now.
Thank you very much, Richard, for this magnanimous and very kind introduction. At the outset, I think I'll have to say, because Bolin has told me that from Indonesia to Australia to US to England, people are watching this program. So let me say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's really an honor to talk to you. It is really an honor to get an award that is named after you. And what can I say? I'm really humbled. I'm honored, I'm humbled. And you ask, tell me from where we should start, and yes. I'll follow.
Well, Javed, you're famous in India, but for the benefit of our many listeners less familiar with Indian culture, could you tell us a bit about your career and how you came upon your life's work?
Well, yeah, I was born in a family where my father, my mother, my uncles, everybody were writers, not writers who were just writers, but respected, known writers. My last 7 generations were writers, either poets or prose writers, and they are mentioned in any respectable anthology of Urdu. So perhaps I was born in an atmosphere where the parents, the uncles were writers, and their friends were writers. And when we would go out of Lucknow, where I was living, it's in North India, the capital of the biggest state of India, UP. So we would stay with some writer's house, and many writers and their families would come and stay with us and so on. So literature, names of big writers were, I mean, in the atmosphere. And I was familiar with all these names at a very young age. And everybody was reading. There were a lot of books in the house. They would discuss books. So I started reading at a very young age. But because my parents were leftists and communists, so most of the literature was from Soviet Union. So I had read, say, Maxim Gorky's mother, or writers like Nikolai Starovsky or Pushkin and so on. By the age of 12 or 13, mother, I remember I was 12 when I read Gorky's mother or his Italian short stories. And then gradually when I grew up, then started reading European literature and then American literature, which is very, very seductive at a young age when you get those bestsellers and so on.
You could read English at a very young age, could you?
Yes, I could read English, but I developed this facility speaking English much later in my life. And perhaps thanks to my wife, because English is almost a first language. But I used to read. So I was, on the other side, we Indians are basically cinema buffs. We love cinema, all of us. And film stars are like demigods in a society. So I used to watch films read fiction. So it is totally logical that one would think that how this book will turn into a cinema film. And this was by the time I was in college. I had decided that I'll go to film industry and work as an assistant director, learn on the job, and then I'll direct a film. But when I came here to film industry, soon everybody started pursuing me for writing. As I say, you have an exceptional talent for writing. Why don't you write? Because the moment I would correct a scene as an assistant and give a suggestion in the scene, on the set, and so on. So ultimately, I started writing.
Your poetry is in Urdu, but presumably you write the film scripts in Hindi. Is that right?
No. You see, that's a very long story. As a matter of fact, Hindi and Urdu are almost Siamese twins. There are no two languages in the world that have the same syntax. So these are the only two languages. They have the same grammar. How they become different? By the virtue of the fact that they have different scripts. Both of them don't have original script. Hindi has Devanagari, which is a Sanskrit script. They have borrowed from there. Urdu, again, has borrowed its script from Persian, which was the lingua franca of those times, 600, 700 years back, of this part of Asia. And that was the language of the ruling classes everywhere in Central Asia and in India. So there was a particular dialect in North India, and both the languages are the offshoots of that dialect. And they have maintained, the grammar is the same. So I sometimes wonder that in North India, a man who cannot read or write, and we still find a lot of people like that, when he speaks, what is he speaking, Urdu or Hindi? It is decided when it's the script that divides them.
But if they're almost the same language, why is there so much hostility between them, as I gather there is?
Oh, that is another sad story.
But
I'll tell you, languages belong to regions. They can't belong to religions. It's not possible. French is the language of French people of France, German of Germany, English of England, Japanese of Japan, and within India, Bengali from Bengal, and Punjabi from Punjab. Languages belong to regions. Now, they had created a two-nation theory, which ultimately caused the division of my country. This theory was absurd. So, Urdu, which was almost a living proof that Hindus and Muslims of India are not two nations, they are one. This Urdu was pushed one side, where it was really killed at the altar of two-nation theory, because obviously you can divide land. You can even divide history. So both the fundamentalists or extremists of the community had their own version, their own heroes. And history was a Hindu history and a Muslim history. But what do you do with the language? You can't say that you keep the verb and I'll keep the nouns. So it had to be pushed one way. And Urdu was decided by the politicians with mutual understanding, with different agendas, that Urdu is a Muslim language. Ironically, in 1798, a gentleman whose name was Shah Abdul Qadir, Islamic scholar, for the first time translated Quran in Urdu as late as 1798. And every mullah worth his salt, every imam, every scholar of Islam gave him a fatwa that how dare he translate this holy book in a heathen language like Urdu. But then came 1857, and then the masters realized that this unity between these two communities is not in our interest. And then gradually, how they encouraged Urdu to get Persianized, how they encouraged Hindi to become Sanskritized. And of course, the scripts were different anyway. And they tried to create, through the language, two different cultures and two different histories, and two, like any bad thing. This too worked to a great extent.
When this award was announced, and on Twitter, we got a great outpouring of hostility towards you. And I'm wondering whether this has something to do with Hindu identification with Hindi.
I write Hindi films, and I can write Hindi. I write so many songs which I so-called pure Hindi or so-called pure Urdu. I can write both.
Yes.
That is not the reason. You see, it came into different ways. First, when you called me, and I thought somebody is really pulling a fast one on me. Then ultimately, somehow we confirmed that no, it's serious, and you have called. So, and you told me. So I was so excited that I told some friends. When I told my friends, they put it on Twitter or in public domain and so on. So the first reaction was that it's a lie. It's a false propaganda. He has not been given any kind of honor. So for 2-3 days, it continued. But fortunately, then you came on the Twitter and you stopped this. When this stopped, then the hate mongers divided themselves between you and me. A lot of people who are send you messages that you are backing a wrong horse. He's a jihadi. He's a fundamentalist. He's a hidden Muslim, and so on and so forth. And I was getting two kinds of messages. First of all, that you don't deserve it. And the second, by certain Muslim groups, that we are not surprised that you have been given this award, because Richard Dawkins is a non-Muslim beta, and he appreciates everybody who talks about Islam and Muslim. And since you have pleased these people by being against Islam, so it's understandable that you are getting it. So all this chaos was there, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I keep on facing this barrage of hate messages all the time. But I tell them that as long as both Muslim fundamentalists and Hindu fundamentalists dislike me, I'm doing something wrong. Right. The day one of them will stop, I'll be worried.
I would like to change the subject for a moment. We'll probably come back to that. Our foundation, the Center for Inquiry, which is giving you this award, is not just anti-religious, we'll come to that. It also is against all kinds of superstition and pseudoscience. For example, astrology, which is both the most egregious offender. And I know that India is awash with astrology and similar nonsense. What are your thoughts on this, and how might Indian society break its addiction to things like astrology?
You see, there is some kind of addiction and you can't logicalize it. I mean, first of all, astrology doesn't know that there are 9 planets. Astrology doesn't know the difference between a satellite, star, and planet. Astrology is blissfully unaware that this Earth, where we are standing upon, is also a planet. So now Saturn and Mars are affecting me. But what about the effect of this planet on which I'm standing? It's the nearest, it's the biggest for me. No mention. And you see, there is a very popular book of Linda Lovelace about zodiac signs. Now, zodiac signs is another this is also very popular here, and even the respectable papers and magazines give the stars foretell. This week, your stars foretell. It comes everywhere. That sometime, some 3,000 or 4,000 years back, some people in Greece decided that we will divide the whole circle around of the seasons, not orbit around the sun, that happened much later, in 12 months. So because they divided the year in 12 months, we have 12 kind of people. Suppose they had decided to make months of 40 days, and we would have, instead of 12, we had 16 months. So we would have had 16 kind of people. But since the 12, there are months are 12, so there are only 12 kind of people. I was talking about this famous book of Linda Lovelace. You pick up the book, ask the person, what's your zodiac sign? The person says Virgo. Open Capricorn and start reading to the person. And the person will totally identify. Yes, that is true. I'm exactly like that. It's
Well, I
all
think you
humbug.
explained very, very well why astrology is nonsense. But what are we going to do about it? And what are you going to do
Yeah,
about it?
you see, we want to peep into our future. We are very curious about the future. Or we, as a matter of fact, we are not too confident of our opinions also. So we want some recognition, like a boy and a girl get married, even today in 21st century, that they see the horoscope, the boy and the horoscope of the girl, whether they match or they do not match. And if the girl is Mangalik, it means she was born on Tuesday. So she's a bit dangerous. So she should get married to a tree or something else, because her first marriage, of course, will be a disaster. And then the real marriage takes place. This too happens. It is not a very common practice anymore, thankfully, but sometimes it does happen.
Yeah, I should say at this point, the Center for Inquiry offers a $250,000 prize to anyone who can prove that they have psychic power, supernatural abilities, that astrology works, that kind of thing. Over the course of 20 years, the CFI has tested people under controlled conditions, and those people claim they're psychics or astrologers or water diviners or whatever it is. They claim that they can, say, predict the next card in a pack that's be turned over, telepathy, that kind of thing. Or they claim they can teleport themselves. You won't be surprised to learn that so far no one has succeeded in demonstrating these abilities under controlled conditions. Often they're very disappointed when they fail because they've never been properly tested under controlled conditions. I just want to say that alleged miracle workers in India are welcome to take up the $250,000 challenge if they wish to do so. So-called alternative medicine is also very popular in India, I believe. We know that the placebo effect is very powerful and can only be ruled out by careful double-blind controlled trials. Would you agree that anecdotal testimonies of the form, my auntie was cured by such and such oil or homeopathy or something, are not valid evidence? The only evidence we should accept is proper double-blind control trials. And if it succeeds, then if the alternative medicine succeeds, then it ceases to be alternative and becomes simply medicine.
No, I quite agree with you that it should be tested. It should be totally confirmed that yes, it works like this. But at the same time, let's not close our minds also. You see, old civilizations, over there, because there were no doctors, there were no hospitals, whether they are Maasais or, let's say, tribals in Andaman, they don't have hospitals or doctors who are MBBS and MD. So what do? They, over thousands of years, they have developed some experience. Like when I was a little child and I would get some boil or something. So my grandmother used to wash it with the hot water and would put neem leaves in it. Now today, science is researching that neem has certain qualities that can stop the septic. I don't think she would know about it. But over the generations, while poor people living in small village, people living for thousands of years, it can only happen in old civilizations. And they have experimented with certain things, and that is how they have survived. Look at the Maasais. Maasais have some medicines that we don't understand. Maasais don't eat meat. They are in a way vegetarian, but they drink blood. They cut an animal and drink the blood with a straw, and then they have some thing, and they put it on the wound, it closes. I don't know what is that, but it happens. So we have to give some margin to these old civilizations. And as a matter of fact, we should get there and find out what they are doing and take it and do research on it instead of rejecting it outright. That would be a very scientific attitude.
Test it.
Yes, of course. But go to them. And if you will, right from the beginning, if you will accept that all that they are doing is wrong, then you are closing a door.
Yes. Okay. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, the second largest nation on earth, recently said the following, and I quote, "We worship Lord Ganesha. There must have been some plastic surgeon at that time who got an elephant's head on the body of a human being and began the practice of plastic surgery." Close. Have you heard that? We must have heard that
Yes, I've
quote.
heard that.
Well,
Yes.
I hope I won't give offense if I say I'm shocked that a successor of Nehru and Gandhi should spout such scientifically illiterate nonsense. How has this tragedy befallen India that it has elected such a man as Prime Minister?
You see, obviously I don't agree with him, but at the same time, everybody who is religious to any degree believes in something which is as unscientific. Everybody. So let's not focus on one. Everybody. You know, I believe that the most religious person is also 90% an atheist. Because out of 10 major religions in the world, he looks at 10 religions like us, like you and me, totally as a rationalist. He goes wrong on the 10th one, which is his own. Now look at these people. If they are making fun of this, or if they are ridiculing this, perhaps you have the right, perhaps I have the right, but nobody has the right to ridicule it who has a religion. Now imagine that, I don't know what is the percentage of atheists in the world, but rest of the people have no more moral right to look down upon this statement because they are equally ignorant.
I agree with
Don't you
that.
think so?
Yes, I agree with that. But it seemed to me to be another example of the attempt to, as it were, hijack science, what we were talking about earlier, and actually to say that, you know, Indian medicine was already grafting heads onto bodies and things because of Lord Ganesha.
Yeah.
Let me just turn to another subject. In Northern Ireland, where, as you know, there's terrible strife verging on warfare between Protestants and Catholics, there's a well-known joke, it's such a common joke, it's always become a cliche, where somebody says, "Sure, you're an atheist, but are you a Catholic atheist or a Protestant atheist?" And I'm wondering whether there's something similar in India. Sure, you're an atheist, but are you a Muslim atheist or a Hindu atheist? I mean, I think you call yourself a Muslim atheist, but what does that really mean?
See, you are not only what you think you are, you are also what others think you are. That is also a reality. It may suit you, it may not suit you. One day, I was a member of parliament for a while, for 6 years. I was coming out of the parliament, and a gentleman who has passed away now, I would rather not like to take his name, a fanatic Muslim, fanatic communal Muslim. He started making strange gestures towards me. Oh, boy. So I went to him. I said, "What happened?" He said, "Oh, my God, what have you done?" I said, "What did I do?" "You have, in an interview, you said that you are not a Muslim." I said, "I never said that." He said, "Why? You said I'm an atheist." I said, "Yes." I said, "I'm an atheist Muslim." He said, "What is that? What is an atheist Muslim?" He said, "It's nothing." I said, "It's nothing. All right. You come with me. I'll take you to a very extremist, fundamentalist, communal, bigoted party from the other community. And I'll meet the boss. I'll meet the chief of that, take you there, introduce you. And I will tell them that he says that since you are an atheist, you are not a Muslim. So next time if there is a riot and people are burning each other's house, please don't burn my house because this gentleman who is an authority on religion is telling you that I'm not a Muslim. If he accepts that, I'm fine. But if in spite of that my house is burned, you have no right to say that I'm not a Muslim. You see, people are not only Muslim because they pray or Christians because they pray. And all the Muslims are not the same people. But there is something like culture. There is something like tradition. Now, unfortunately, atheist community has not become big that one day people say he is an atheist. How do I get out of this? I can only get out by converting to some other religion. But this was given to me. It's not my fault. I was born in it and I'm fed up of it and I don't accept it. But if I convert myself, then I'll be accepting another religion with my free will. I can't do that. So where do I go? What do I do? They say, why do you have a Muslim name? First of all, it's not a Muslim name. Names are not Muslim. Names come from language. But in spite of that, so what do I do? Shall I keep my name in some numbers, X, 3, 4, 5? This is my name. What do I do? You see, so each one of us is trapped in this. It is not a choice. If we come out, where do we go? They will say, no, you belong to it. I may 100 times say that I am an atheist, but in the eyes of millions and millions of people, and particularly the communalist, particularly the arsonist, the murderer, the man who will come to my house to burn my house, if it happens, he won't believe that because I'm an atheist, I'm not a Muslim. And because he believes that I'm a Muslim, I'm trapped. What do I do?
I understand that and sympathize with it, but talking about culture, you on the one hand you say that you have Muslim culture. On the other hand, you've also said
there is
no such thing as Muslim culture.
There is nothing like Muslim culture or Islamic culture, not at all. It is. I am a North Indian. I was born in Lucknow, where there is certain cuisine, where there is certain language, there is certain kind of poetry, certain tradition, certain etiquettes. If that is with a Christian or a Hindu, he is my person. And any Muslim who has different language, different traditions, different history, I don't identify with him. But I'll be always looked at by others that here is a man who has become an atheist, but he's a Muslim. Now, it's not my choice. It's not my choice at all.
There have been times when I've been tempted to say that I'm an atheist Christian because I have Christian culture, although you wouldn't deny there's such a thing as Christian culture, but I am tempted to say that. On the other hand,
I ask a question? Were you born in a Roman Catholic family?
No, Protestant.
Okay.
Okay. But I think, I mean, I accept the point about, burning your house down, and that's a very serious point, which doesn't apply in Britain, fortunately. But I feel that to succumb to this temptation to say I'm a Christian atheist because I was brought up Christian and I like listening to Christmas carols and things, I think that might be selling out to the enemy, because there's a tendency for religious apologists to count up the number of people on their side. So if I say I'm a Christian atheist, or I belong to the Christian community, then they may count me. And we see this in Britain, where members of parliament, for example, will say, this is a Christian country. Well, it's not a Christian country. If you actually look at the statistics, the number of people who go to church, the number of people who literally believe that Jesus is the Son of God, etc., it's a minority. And so I want that to be known. I want it to be known that Britain is not a Christian country. And people who say, well, I may be an atheist, but I'm a Christian atheist, are possibly selling out to the enemy, selling out to people who want to count heads, who want to make the case that Britain is a Christian country. Now, I think it's probably different in India.
In my children's birth certificate, I have 2 granddaughters in their birth certificates. Religion is written not applicable. My children, my daughter, my son, and my grandchildren don't belong to any religion. Now, we have to differentiate, and there is a difference between religion and community. Like, you can be totally irreligious, and then too, you can have communal biases. You can be a religious person, which is rare, like Nehru and Gandhi. Gandhi was a religious person, but was a secular person. So community is one reality and religion is another. Community is a social and political structure. They just use religion once in a while, but the game is different. Like you were talking of North Island. Do you think the battle between Roman Catholics and Protestants is purely on religious grounds?
No.
There is no other reason?
No, it's not. They call themselves communities and they have historic enmities. They have economic problems. The Catholic community has been oppressed, and so they have plenty of grudges. They have grudges, historical grudges. They have grudges going back to who killed whose grandfather and so on. But having said that, it's only religion that enables them to know which community they belong to. Religion is a label that enables them to say, I belong to this community or that community. That's what religion is doing.
All right. I'm willing to remove that label. But the very next moment, somebody will come and stick the label on me again.
Yeah, I see that. And
so what will I do?
That's a big problem.
And no, there is another thing to be learned. Whenever we see a battle, a conflict, contention, which is ostensibly religious, like in Northern Ireland, actually it is not religious. It is the cover, it is the dressing. The fact is that there are some economic, some political issues which are hiding somewhere behind. And to take the foot soldier's loyalty, they use religion. Maybe the foot soldier who is killing himself on the front really believes that I'm fighting for religion, but not the leader, never. The leaders have a very cold-blooded, almost secular ambitions. It is power, it is land, it is wealth. So we think, like anywhere in the world, and this is a confusion that I have seen some very brilliant people falling in this trap, that this is a religious conflict. It looks like, but if you take out the layers, you will know it is economic and it is political.
Yes, but on the other hand, Islam is a religion where real believers are told they have to believe literally in every word of the Quran. And that is a big problem because it means it's difficult to have a reformation. It's difficult to do what the Christians have done, at least many of them, which is to say, oh no, we don't take the Bible literally anymore. It's symbolic, it's an analogy, it's parables. Whereas if you have been drilled to believe that the holy book is literally every word true, then you cannot do that. You're as it were, immune from the possibility of reform. I mean, do you think that the problem, I mean, the Bible, the Old Testament especially, is every bit as horrible as the Quran. But the advantage is that the Judeo-Christian world, we don't have to take it literally. Is there a problem that in the Islamic world, you have to take it literally?
Oh, yeah. No, everybody doesn't. Most of the people don't. As a matter of fact, a traditional or conservative Islamist will discourage music. India cannot think of music of last 1,000 years without thinking of so many Muslim musicians. Quran has a complete chapter against the poets. The chapter's name is Surah Al-Shura, against the poets. And you say the Muslims have written great poetry and they still write poetry, and poetry is one of the important part of their culture. It is not given by Islam. Islam, for most of the Muslims, leave aside these bigots who are a small percentage, or maybe somewhere they are in power, so they are very important. But they are there, and they are coming from different madrasas and different school of thought, if you may call it thought, which is highly exaggerated word for any religious belief. It can't be thought. But rest of the people, for them, Islam is like their old uncle or grandfather. They are not interested in the old uncle. They don't want to have company of the old uncle for 5 minutes. So who wants to sit with the senile grandfather? But they will say we respect him. And if you will say something against him, they may feel bad also. But the fact is that their life is not at all influenced by this boring uncle or the senile grandfather. That is how Islam is. Most of the people, I mean, in India, you see, Muslims are perhaps 13 or 14%. But an overwhelming majority of Muslims in the country are artisans. Their identity should be artisans, not mullah. How many of them are mullahs? In India, there are thousands of madrasas. Do you know the Muslim boys in India who go to madrasa? What is the percentage of the Muslim boys that goes to madrasa? Children who go to the school. Only 4% children go to madrasa. And obviously they are brainwashed there. It's very interesting that in our country, when a film is completed, it goes to censor board and they censor the film. You can't use this word, you cut this sentence, and this is not right, and this is humiliating women, and this is humiliating, hurting the emotions of certain community. And these schools, which are basically religious schools like madrasas, and there are certain Hindu schools where they teach nothing but hate. There is no censor on it.
But only 4%, you said.
To believe that an average Muslim believes that every word in Quran is the truth. If you will corner him, he has no courage to say, of course it is not. But in their heart of heart, they know. Most of them know. And they are not leading their lives according to Quran. How many of them are leading, wear that costume, that dress, they pray 5 times? How many Muslims? There's a minuscule, although maybe today I'll agree that the percentage in Muslims is higher than any other community. And those who are extreme fanatics are violent also. That is true. And that is not acceptable. They say, we are doing it, you say we are wrong. But when a secular Europe and secular USA comes and carpet bombs our country, that is fine. No problem. Because it is irreligious. What does it mean? That there is a great problem of West foreign policy vis-a-vis Middle East, vis-a-vis Asia. Is it fair? Is it right? You go to Vietnam, what threat America had with Vietnam? Vietnam was going to conquer USA and carpet bombing. You go to Iraq, there was not a single Iraqi in that team that destroyed the Twin Towers. They were Arabs, they were Saudis, who were American clients and the worst kind of fundamentalists on the face of the earth. They are protected by West. I hang my head in shame that you are protecting Saudi Arabia. You are protecting, and when you conquer and throw out that dictator called Saddam, you put back the Shia. Why you do not bring democracy there?
Yes, well, I agree. I was passionately against both the Vietnam War and the Iraq War as well. So I mean, I see.
But nobody will say, "Acha, what was the last time that the Europe bombarded white people, or USA bombarded white people? What was the last time?
Yeah.
Maybe the Hitler, maybe the Nazis."
Yeah.
So you can think that you think somewhere, in spite of being totally secular, that you can do away with the browns or blacks. You're doing it. It is not that it's your opinion, and you're constantly doing it. And you see, it is a given that all the rulers of Middle East are dictators, kings, unfair people. Now we have to choose between these dictators. Saddam may be anything, but he was not a religious fanatic. He had women in his army. He had women pilots. He had women bodyguards. Women used to go to colleges, universities, medical college. They were doctors. In Libya, it was the same. These countries were destroyed, and Saudi Arabia is protected. So how do I believe that you believe in secularism or you are against fundamentalism? The fountainhead of all Muslim fundamentalism and terrorism is Saudi Arab. You know it and I know it.
And well, I'm Europe to lose their power. I mean, they have oil power. And if only we could get rid of the dependence on oil so that there was no longer the sort of immense economic.
So in that case, let's not talk of principles.
Not talk of
Principles. How can we talk of principle? Okay, you have oil power, so your fundamentalism is acceptable. Fine.
Yeah. Can I go back to a thing you said a moment ago, where you said that in their heart of hearts, many ordinary Muslims don't believe it.
As a matter of many Christians, many Jews, many Hindus.
Oh, indeed.
As
yes.
a matter of fact, I think atheism is where homosexuality was in 50s and 60s. The closets are full of atheists. They can't come out. They, in their heart of heart, they are perhaps as much an atheist as you are or I am, but they don't have the courage to say that because of the family, because of the.
What can we do about it, Javed? What can we do to, or what can you do? What can be done to help those people to come out?
No, it's happening. It is happening because this religion and with the emergence of modern science is looking more and more ridiculous. More and more ridiculous. So now most of the people, educated people, you'll find them are on the second line of defense. And that second line of defense is called spiritualism, where they get too embarrassed about the traditional religion. Now they create a fog. And they hide behind the fog of spiritualism, and then they speak in a language which is no meaning. I want to relate to the cosmos. How do you relate to the cosmos? You want to relate to Alpha Centauri, or do you think Alpha Centauri is interested in relating with you? What are we talking about? These are all hocus pocus of spiritualism. This is the second line of defense, who have lost the first round. Now they are sticking. It's a bad habit. It's like, see, I have stopped taking cocaine, now I take heroin. So they want something. But it is going. If you ask younger generation, they are very, very, very skeptical about it. But people have yet to gain courage to come out and say it.
Yes.
I think there is a huge percentage of people in every country, every society that is totally atheist, but they are silent.
Well, we need more people like you to set the example, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so pleased.
But at the same time, Richard, in our society where everywhere there's so much of religion, we have to tiptoe. It is like walking on eggs. Obviously, you would know what must be my actual belief about any holy book. But I will not say it so very openly. I'll be careful. I'll find out something and tell people who are not committed bigots, like somewhere you have written, you have given that any brain that is inflicted by faith is beyond any approach. You have written in one of your articles, maybe I'm missing the proper words, but the meaning was this. So there are some people who are so committed that religion is within their bones. You only can wait for their death. But rest of the people who are in twilight zone, people who are in gray area, they are not committed, but they have never thought about it, and they would rather say, okay, it is fine because, I mean, it's not affecting their life and so on. We have to very carefully befriend them, find a communication, tell them this is wrong and why it is wrong. But in one day, you can't tell everything to them. Then they'll run away. They'll be too scared. So if we want to reform people, we have to tiptoe. We have to give this pill, a sugar-coated pill to them. Listen to them up to a point. If we see that this is their great weakness, their obsession or faith is almost unshakable at the moment, so forget the topic. Cut their roots from somewhere else. And gradually, people, if you give them right information, without challenging everything, because that will scare them, you can bring a lot of people on your side. But at the same time, humanity needs people like you also. Because sometimes like God delusion. I think there are a lot of people who have totally changed their thinking because of that one book.
I'd like to think that people change their thinking because of Ibn Warak's book on Why I'm Not a Muslim. Is that at all influential in India?
That's very interesting. You know, they had opposed Salman Rushdie's book. They had opposed Taslima Nasreen's book. As a matter of fact, Taslima's book and even Salman's book is like a children's bedtime stories in front of Why I'm Not a Muslim by what is the name of the author?
Ibn
Ibn Bar. Actually, it's a pseudonym. His name is something else. He was a Gujarati, migrated to Pakistan, then he went to England and so on. His book is not any fantasy. His book is not some stream of consciousness and so on and so forth. He has dealt with facts. And look at his scholarship, that he has said that my sources will only be Muslim and Arab. And I'll quote them. And he has really demolished everything. Not one mullah in the world has said a word about that book. Because they must have thought that this is reality. If we oppose it, people will read it. So just don't talk about it. And hope and pray that nobody reads it. That is a solid book. Solid.
It's an excellent book. I would like to have a copy.
Excellent.
Yeah. So Ibn Warak, Why I Am Not a Muslim. Could I also mention that the Center for Inquiry has a project for translating my books into Arabic, Urdu, Indonesian, and Farsi, the main languages of the Islamic world. And these are going to be not published as books. They are indeed not published as books. They're published as PDFs, which anybody can download free. And so I'm just giving a little plug to that, along with Ibn Warak's book.
Great idea, great idea, great idea. I have given your book to many people, God Delusion, and nobody came and said that it is biased, it is prejudice. But how can he say this? Nobody. And most of them are religious people. Why should I give this book to an atheist? And I could see that they are totally cornered and they are thinking about it. That is the beauty of that book. Yes. And you have not been rude. As a matter of fact, in spite of saying everything, you have not said anything indecent, within decency, within a certain etiquette. You have exposed them totally. You just, I mean, so many arguments are there that they are irrefutable.
I like to think that, but many people do think I've been rude. I think there's a tendency for anybody who says something even mildly critical of religion to sound rude because they're just not used to it. They've got so used to the idea that you have to tiptoe, to use your word a moment ago, have to tiptoe around the problem. And if you don't tiptoe, it sounds rude.
I have noticed, you see, we have a small group and we'll go to different cities where there is a big Muslim population, and we organize our meetings in that area. And what happens that when I'm telling them that this Muslim personal law in India, which they say that it is based on pure religion and so on, is wrong. It is against your interest. It is against your progress. You have to get out of it. You should ask the government of India to remove all these privileges. They are not in your favor. They are damaging you as human beings or as a community. Few people get up. Every time, few people get up to oppose, and the crowd makes them sit down. The fact is that they themselves cannot say it. They realize it. They don't have the courage to say it. But if somebody has picked up this gauntlet, then they appreciate that. In a big Muslim organization, institution, where I went there, a friend of mine who is left of the center, he told me that, listen, you are going to talk to the students and so on. You talk about everything, but don't talk about this process of divorce and because that is too sensitive, and it is a Muslim institution and people may react badly. So don't take that up. So I said, okay, I won't say. And I perhaps thought that I will not. But when I was speaking and pushing the envelope, I could see that I can get away by saying it because the audience is responding. And I said that it is beyond anybody's imagination, including those friends of mine who were teaching in that institution, that boys and girls clapped. They clapped. So the fact is that an average man is a very timid person. He doesn't have the courage of Richard Dawkins, and he'd say that this is wrong. But he knows that Richard Dawkins is right. He knows it. He cannot say it publicly. You talk to any religious, not a priest, an average person who is neither an atheist nor a religious bigot. If you talk to him alone, he will listen to you and he'll agree with you. But if there are 50 people, then he'll be quiet. He won't say that he's right. He won't say that.
Yes, indeed. Well, Javed, we've left some time at the end of this discussion for questions to be sent in. And the way we're going to do this, if that's all right by you, is that...
oh, yeah, sure.
Robin is going to, she's been sifting through the questions and she's going to read out some of the questions, and we'll see how we get on with in the remaining 25 minutes or so with answering the questions. So Robin, are you ready with some questions?
I am, yes. Richard and Javed.
May I interrupt? Before we start other people's question, I have a question.
Oh, right.
Richard, for you.
Yes.
Do you think that after 50 years, after 100 years, after 200 years, 500 years, a day will come when an average human being will have no faith or no belief in this stupidity called religion? Do you think a day will come?
Yes, I do. Or the trends are all going in the right direction even now. If you look at statistics, it's going in the right direction all over the world, even in America, where it's lagging behind Europe a bit. And you've just reassured me that in India, things are going in the right direction as well. So yes, I do believe that in 100 years' time, there will be no religious people left.
Thank you very much. So that's a happy ending of this conversation.
Right. Good. Robin, go ahead.
Yes, Javed, firstly, if I could impose upon you, it took such machinations to get the award to you. Can you hold it up for the...
Oh, sure.
So...
Oh, yes, good.
There it is. Beautiful. So the first question I'd like to offer is from Gunjat Rana. Given the current environment, what are the top 2 to 3 books that you recommend every global citizen read?
This question is true?
For both of you.
Okay. Let Richard respond to that.
No, you first. I'll offer, first of all, Carl Sagan, The Demon Haunted World, which is, as you know, he was a great astronomer and popularizer of astronomy. But he wrote this wonderful book on superstition and making some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, Javed, about astrology and things like that, and making analogies with historic times, medieval times, when people believed in all sorts of horrible witches and things like that. It's a beautiful book, wonderfully written. So that would be my first suggestion. What's your first suggestion, Javed?
I'll say God Delusion.
Oh, that's very nice.
That's a fact. That is, for a want of a better word, I'm saying that is the Bible today. That is the Bible of atheists. So you must read it. If you have already not read it.
That's very gratifying.
I've already mentioned. Oh, you have written so many articles. You have written so many books. But here, I mean, it is totally complete, wholesome, and all-encompassing. You have looked at this fraud called religion from every angle possible, whether historically, scientifically, economically, aesthetically, morally, It's a complete world in itself.
I have already mentioned Ibn Waraq's Why I'm Not a Muslim, and I would mention,
I,
I think.
I'll strongly recommend that book to Muslims.
Yes.
They should read why somebody is saying I'm not a Muslim.
Yes.
And read it completely. Don't get upset. And keep looking at the references from where he has taken this, from where he has read or who he's quoting. There is no European source. There is no Christian source. There is no Jew source in that. So you cannot say that there was a bias, he has only taken Arabic books, classical books, old books, and he has taken quotations from there. He has taken given references of those books and told you the page, the edition, and so on. So now you have to face it.
I think we better go on to the next question because otherwise we won't get through them.
Yes. So this is a statement from Swaraj Patil, and he'd like each of you to respond to it. So much focus is being given to scientific demonstration and mathematics being the only way to accept something. Maybe our mind and bodies are not fit to understand the intricate facts of nature.
Well, that's a very interesting point. I think that science and mathematics are the only way to understand what is true about the real world, but I accept the suggestion that there may be some things which are so difficult that the human mind may be incapable of understanding them. I think modern physics is already pushing up against the limits of what a human brain is capable of understanding. In a way, it's amazing that the human brain, which was evolved on the plains of Africa to feed and avoid predators and find mates and find housing and just ordinary mundane things like that, nevertheless is capable of grasping Einstein, of grasping quantum theory. We've gone far, far beyond what anybody might have predicted as the capacity that the human brain would have been naturally selected for. Maybe there are limits beyond which we cannot go. Maybe there are some deep problems which we shall never understand. But what would be a terrible mistake would be to say that because science can't understand them, therefore religion can. If science can't understand them, then as sure as hell, nothing else can.
You see, so often such people say that can science tell this and can science tell that, and can you describe the contours of this universe? What is the size of the universe? How it started? You say Big Bang, but because of Big Bang, and so on. Science has the humility, or any reasonable person has the humility to accept that there are many things we don't know. I am a very ignorant person. I don't know how this wristwatch works. So now tomorrow, if you will tell me that it grows on a tree, I will not believe it. Yes, I don't have the answer. It doesn't matter. Do you realize how a human eye functions? It is so sophisticated, so complicated. It just happened. You think it is an accident? They say that. I remember my childhood. I was always bad in mathematics. So my family had kept a teacher who would come home and give me special lessons. Perhaps I was 6 or 7, whatever. One day, my teacher decided to explain to me what is division, what is 1 upon 2, what is 3 upon 4. Richard, I'm not exaggerating. I was perhaps 6 or 7. I felt that I tried to understand it. And it was so difficult, so out of my reach, that I felt that my head will split. What is 1 upon 2? Now, obviously, today I find it funny. So humanity, whole humanity, is also a personification of somebody that is growing. Today, I look at the eyes function with great wonder, but after some years, it will be 1 upon 2. So anything which is creating wonder and surprise and awe in you It's a matter of time. The thing will start looking very ordinary. And it has happened. Floods, seasons, rain, diseases. Each one was a wonder. So the list of the wonders is reducing. I've written a poem addressed to God. I'll send it to you. That where the God is getting, he's on the retreat. And now he is left, except for 2-3 places, like in unpredictability of future, the expansion of universe, and the death. Now these are three things left. And in the end, I have said that you live there for a while, but you better be aware that I'm coming there. So this is what is happening. Your God is on a retreat. In good times, he was everywhere. So now maybe he's in the eye, but not for a very long time.
Yes.
All right. This comes from Vishvesh Rikar. The question is, there is an argument. Even if God does not exist, the idea of God is needed to maintain the fabric of society, because most people lack the integrity to do what is right. So without the idea of God and afterlife, and if this is the only life we have, then how would you convince a person to not be selfish?
Tell me, in England and in India, we drive on the left side. Is it to please the God? And is it God's order that please keep left? No. These are the rules we have made, and very sensibly. If you will take over a car from the wrong side, you will most probably have an accident or a traffic jam. In accident, you can get hurt or somebody else will get hurt. In traffic jam, neither you will be able to go anywhere nor the other one. You take the map of the world and mark the places where there is more injustice, more repression, more economic exploitation, less empowerment to women, or maybe they are in very bad condition. Mark all those places, then put them away. Then pick up another map and start marking where there is a lot of influence of religion on the society. And lo and behold, you will see that these are the same places. These are the same places. Wherever there is more religion in the society, or religion has a say in the administration or the governing of the country, you will see people are less empowered, there is less justice, less fairness, more exploitation, more unfairness. So if religion could give us these great virtues, I mean, the best country in the world should have been Saudi Arabia or some country, conservative Christian country in Latin America.
Yes, it's a very good point. And another point you could make about that same question is that the idea that you need religion in order to be good is rather patronizing, sort of suggesting that, well, some of us may be good enough, intelligent enough not to be selfish, but most people need religion because they're too stupid to do without it. So there's a kind of patronizing condescension about it. If you look at the Bible, the Judeo-Christian Bible, it says man shall have dominion over animals and the world. And it's very true. If you look at America, for example, there is a very strong correlation between high religiosity and denial of climate change. It's a very, very, very strong correlation. So yes, I think religion is damaging to the environment.
It's understandable. You know, if there is a lot of influence of religion in society, it means there will be less civil liberty. And when there will be less civil liberty, it means the power will remain in some hands. If the common man or common woman have been deprived of empowerment, then where does it go? It goes in the hands of few. If it is in the hands of the few, obviously they will misuse it. And they do every time, everywhere, in every period of human history. And when they misuse the power, how can they respect the environment? Not possible, because ultimately it is they who are important. It is not for the benefit of everybody or society at large. They have the power, and what is in their interest, so they will plunder. And this will be a collateral damage environment, without any doubt. No religious society can be sensitive to environment, because the environment can only be taken care of in a society where everybody is participating.
This question comes from Sohan D'Souza. This is for Javed. India still has blasphemy laws of sorts in its penal code, ironically codified during British colonial rule, but shamefully retained by successive Indian administrations post-independence. Will you call for this and other such laws protecting religious sentiments to be unconditionally struck down?
Let me study seriously what are the laws, because I have not heard many times that somebody has gone to jail because of that. I'm aware that there are at least 11, 12 countries even today in 21st century where blasphemy means, shall I say, heads off. So it is not so in India. But yes, blasphemy laws are ridiculous. They shouldn't be there. But at the same time, again, I'll repeat, if there is anything like libel, then perhaps, you and me cannot appreciate or understand how much people value their faith, rightly or wrongly. But and we should try to make them see the point. But if you become rude, if you say things which are indecent, whether they are about their great-grandfather or about their prophet, that's not done. That's not done. You shouldn't do it, because it is counterproductive, as a matter of fact. By doing this, I have never supported people who have been so outrageous and just for some kind of a intellectual adventure or pleasure, because they are counterproductive. They are pushing the average man who was not totally committed towards the fundamentalist. So I don't appreciate it at all. You have to be, if you really want to bring changes, you have to be careful.
Javed, just to push back a little on that, do you draw a distinction between calling something out as inappropriate and making it a criminal offense where someone could lose their liberty for it?
I have noticed, even in religious people, that they are not in love with the ideas. They are not love in the philosophy or the theory. They are in love with individuals, people. They get attached or awed by people, some people whom they may call prophet or God, whatever. So for a while, you keep on attacking the ideas, the philosophy, the logic, instead of attacking those people who are worshipped and awed by so many people. It will not help you. It will go against your cause. Keep on telling them that, see, this is your ritual, what is wrong with it? This is your philosophy, what is wrong with it? Why reincarnation is not possible? Why hell and heaven are absurd ideas? Leave aside, at the moment, leave aside the those characters who are revered by so many. That is a dangerous area. Then you will not be able to tell this also. And one day, gradually, when they really internalize all this, that this philosophy is not practical wrong, these set of beliefs are illogical, and then those who are on the pedestal since thousands of years, they themselves will come down.
Well,
but if you go really, yeah.
You're giving advice, which sounds to me like sensible advice. On the other hand, to make it actually illegal is a different matter, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to say it's counterproductive to insult, to blaspheme, say, but should it be illegal actually to have a penalty, to actually, in extreme cases, the death penalty?
As a matter of, I must, in all honesty, accept that I'm not very clear about it, because I'm not. So I will not take a strong stand. What I feel, I mean, maybe I'm playing a devil's advocate, that if I should not say indecent thing about his grandfather, I should not, decency demand that I should not insult his grandfather. Maybe he was not the best person born on the earth. then why should I have the right to talk in such irreverent or crude manner about a person who was born 1,000 years back or 2,000 years back, whom he loves and respects and worships? Why should I? How will it help me? As a matter of what I feel, that it will go against my interest.
Well, you could
then
say
this man will become kota, and no, you will not listen to me for anything.
yes. I mean, there's a difference between revering your grandfather and revering somebody who lived 1,500 years ago, and in a sort of fanatical way.
Believe me, if there is a choice, they will
Yeah,
sacrifice the grandfather.
Sorry?
The problem is, if the choice is between the grandfather and that person, then they will drop the grandfather.
Oh, well, yes. But I'm not sure. I mean, they actually say we love our prophet more than we love our own children. I mean, isn't that a bit weird?
But yeah, it's a fact. So now we will be entering a dangerous zone. Then we will break the bridge. Let's not break the bridge. Pull slowly people on the other side of the river. And it can happen. It can happen. It's not impossible. But going all out is not good, let me say, warcraft. You have to know where you have to attack and where you have to withdraw your army, and where you behave like a general, not like a soldier who is fighting where he's fighting. Let's see things in a bigger perspective and broader canvas. This is the difference between a soldier's battle and a general's battle. General knows where to withdraw and from which side one should go. And yeah, hold your front here and push the army on that side. But the soldier, wherever he is, he'll die, he won't move. He will not take a step backward. So we have to decide, shall we fight like a soldier or like a general?
Yes,
Okay,
perhaps we need both. We're running out of time.
Yes.
Javed, sorry.
I was going to offer the last question.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm Ida from Indonesia. She has a question for Professor Dawkins, but I think both of you could probably answer this. Science is value-free and the most reliable guide for life. On the other hand, morality is arbitrary. So how do we live our life? Should we base our morality on science?
Well, I think Javed already, in a sense, answered that when he made the point that we drive on the left or we drive on the right, and woe betide us if we do the opposite from what other people do. There are perfectly sensible, rational reasons for morality, in the same way, not that driving on the left is a moral thing to do, but morality too. We ought to sit down together and work out the right way, the right ethics, the right morality for how we should live. Don't get it from a holy book, because the holy book morality is repulsive in the case of certainly Christian and the Muslim holy books. Don't get your morality from the holy book. Don't get it from being scared of God, scared of going to hell, or wanting to go to heaven. Get your morality by intelligent design of a morality, where we work it out together with moral philosophers, with jurists, with lawyers, with parliamentarians, with journalists, with writers, with thinkers, intellectuals, and just ordinary people. We work out together how we want to live. And as I said, get it from intelligent design, not from a holy book, and not from being scared of some mythical creature in the sky.
Javed, would you like to add anything to that?
I mean, I agree with every word what he's saying. And the fact is that ultimately, as they say, the taste of pudding is in eating it. You see where religion is, are people better? Or where atheism has become more acceptable society compared, there is no perfect society in the world, but the fact remains that the countries which have to a large extent rejected religion are comparatively more fair, more decent, and more progressive. Women, minorities, all of them are better there. Religions that, countries that don't believe in religion anymore,
and they are totally, sometimes even aggressively secular. In contrast, societies which are predominantly religious have all the evil available there. They have exploitation of the poor, they have repression of vulnerable, they have repression of women, every bad thing which you perhaps will not appreciate today, any social vice, including indiscriminate sex, is more available in so-called conservative and religious society than in an open society.
Wonderful.
So then what do we talk about? What are we talking about? I mean, there, just see it.
Well, I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Thank you. Thank you both for this remarkable meeting of minds. Thank you, Javed Akhtar.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you,
Bolin.
And
you have given me an honor, which is, yes, it's true that I have received many, many awards in my life, and people have been kind, but this is the ultimate.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I'm delighted.
And we'd like to thank our tech support pro, Mark Kreidler, and thanks to the audience for caring about reason and science. Critical thinking, rationality, and the scientific method are what made human progress soar. You know that, we know that. Now let's go out and convince the rest of the world. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you.